Okay, let's make this cool audio reactive visualizer in Touchdesigner right now. First thing you want to do is get an MP3 file. I use joystock.com for royalty-free music. And then from the hip hop category, just click on download for the coffee break song, save that file to your computer, and drag and drop that MP3 file into Touchdesigner. Now press tab on the keyboard and go to the chop category. Just add audio device out, connect these two operators. You can bypass the audio device out to mute that, and you can press the space bar to start or stop the playback of the music or the entire timeline of the project. Now we're going to add an audio analysis operator from the palette of Touchdesigner. So in the palette, go to the tools category and then just drag and drop audio analysis into your project and connect audio device out to audio analysis. Now press tab on the keyboard again. And from the chops category, we're just going to click on null and place null to the right of audio analysis, connect audio analysis to null. Now you should have your MP3 file, your audio device out, your audio analysis, and your null. And now if we zoom in on the null operator, it tells us the channels that are coming from our audio analysis. So what we're going to do is put a new operator in here that's going to select just one of the channels for us so that we can work with just one channel at a time. So press tab on the keyboard and from the chops category, click on select and place select to the right of your null operator. And now in the parameters for your select operator, we're just going to change the channel names parameter. And we're just going to type in kick detection to match the name of one of the channels coming from our audio analysis operator. Make sure null is connected to select. And now we are just selecting the kick detection channel from our audio analysis operator. And you can see the kick detection channel getting a signal from our MP3 file. So at this point, we could put a bunch of more select operators in here to individually select all of the channels that are coming from our audio analysis. And we're going to do that. But before we do that, let's add two more operators after select so that we can modify the signal. So press tab on the keyboard to add a new operator. And from the chops category, click on lag and place that to the right of your select operator. Now add another new operator, and this time click on math. Place that to the right of lag. Make sure everything is connected, just like this. And now we can use the lag operator to give some fall off to the value that is coming from our audio analysis so that we don't just have a static on or off signal. It has some lag in the output there. And then after we give it some lag, we can modify the value by using this math operator here. So from the math operator in the OP tab, you can see that we can combine channels here. And in the multiply add tab, we can do things to the signal before, after, or we can multiply the signal value, which we are going to do. So just a quick review, you should have 7 operators, one for your MP3 file, one for your audio device out, one audio analysis, one null, one select, one lag, and one math. And now that we have these operators, we can use any of those last 3 operators you see, such as select, lag, or math. We can use these operators in place of a static value for a parameter in another operator. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that now. What we're going to do is create a sphere, and then we're going to use a particle emitter operator, the particles GPU operator, to emit particles and then utilize this value coming from our math operator to change the velocity of the particles or the speed at which those particles move. So let's do that right now. But before we get the particles to show up, let's finish out this section really quickly. We're just going to add these 3 operators for all 9 channels coming from the null or audio analysis operator. So let's first click on the select operator, hold down Shift on the keyboard, and then click on lag and math. Press Control-C or Command-C on the keyboard if you're on a Mac, and then press Control-V or Command-V on the keyboard if you're on a Mac. So we're just going to copy and paste these operators until there's enough for all 9 channels. And then after you have these operators for all 9 channels, you would want to go to the select operator for each individual line of operators. And in the parameters for this select operator, you would want to change that channel name to the next channel coming from audio analysis, which could be snare detection. So you would type in snare detection, and then we have rhythm, and then we have our lows, we have our mids, highs, And then we have SMP, we have FMP, and we have spectral centroid. Cool, so your project should look like this now. We have our kick detection, snare detection, rhythm, low, mid, high, SMP, FMP, and spectral centroid. So now let's create some particles and let's use these audio values to modify parameters in those particles. Okay, let's press tab on the keyboard, and from the SOP category, click on sphere and place that sphere maybe above your MP3 file somewhere. Now let's go back into the palette of Touchdesigner. And in the tools category, we just want to click on Particles GPU, drag and drop Particles GPU into Touchdesigner. Let's go ahead and put that to the right of our sphere, connect sphere to Particles GPU, and then click on your sphere to select that. And in the parameters for the sphere, just dial that radius down to 0.1, just like that. Make sure the timeline is playing, and if not, press the play button or press the space bar on the keyboard. And you should see something coming out of the Particles GPU operator like this, like these orange and red leaves. And in the parameters for Particles GPU, we're going to go to the external force parameter of the forces tab, and we're going to change that Z value to 10. We're also going to change the wind Z value to 10. Now the particles look like they're coming toward the camera. Now let's go to the render tab of the Particles GPU parameters and change the texture from leaf to circle. Let's go to the Particles tab and change the number of particles from 4,000 down to about 300. Let's change the life parameter to about 35. And let's change the particle size max to about 0.15. And for the positive limit plane and negative limit plane, we're going to change all these 3s to 5s or -5s. We have 5, 5, 5 for positive, and we have -5, -5, -5 for negative. We're going to change our mass to about 4.6 and our drag to about 0.89. We're going to go back to our forces tab and change one thing. We're going to change the wind magnitude to about 0.004. And then we're going to change one more thing in the render tab, which is the face camera switch. So turn on the face camera switch, and now our particles are facing the camera. Then we're also going to change the compositing drop-down menu to discard alpha. And then we're going to change that alpha threshold to about 0.45. And then you can see our particles are looking pretty good. Now let's make these particles audio reactive. What we're going to do is go to the forces tab of our Particles GPU operator, and we're going to drag and drop onto our turbulence magnitude parameter of the forces tab in our Particles GPU operator. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to use our math operator, our math1 operator, which is selecting our kick detection channel. We're going to drag and drop that onto our Particles GPU operator. So click on the Viewer Active button for your math1 operator, and you'll know you did this right when you hover over the math1 operator and the cursor is that little arrow or chevron icon. And when you see that, you know you can drag and drop this onto something. So now that the Viewer Active button is turned on in the Math1 operator, you want to make sure that the Particles GPU operator is selected. It has that green border around it so that we can see the parameters for that. And then you just want to drag and drop Math1 onto that turbulence magnitude parameter right here. So we just want to drag and drop Math1 onto turbulence magnitude. So drag and drop Math1 onto turbulence magnitude, and then click on Export Chop. And then you should see this faint gray line that connects the two operators. Now you should see some movement in our particles, but there's not much, so let's change that right now. Let's just go over to our Math1 operator and click the Viewer Active button to turn that off, and then click the Math1 operator to select that. And in the parameters for the Math1 operator under the Multiply Add tab, we just want to change the multiply value. We just want to change that to about 5. And now if we go look at our particles, you can see that our particles are reacting quite a bit to the bass signal or the kick detection. So we're doing pretty good on our particles. We can call that good for now and move on to the next part of this project. And by the way, I recommend that you add a new operator after Particles GPU. Just go to the tops category and add a null operator after Particles GPU and connect those two operators. And then if you want, you can press the display button in the corner of the null operator to display this animation in the background of Touchdesigner. Okay, so we got the particles. And now let's add our planet. This is going to be one of the easiest parts of the project because we use a shortcut to do this. What we want to do is scroll to a big empty area of our project area like this, and we want to click on the Help button in the Touchdesigner menu and then click on Operator Snippets. And then from the Snippets window, we just want to click on the Materials category. And then from the Materials category, we just want to click on Phong. And then you can see there's the planet. So we're just going to copy and paste all this stuff into Touchdesigner. So first, let's click on the first operator you see to select that operator. And then hold down Shift on the keyboard and then click and drag a big square around all of the operators that you see in this snippet until those are all selected like this. And then press Control-C to copy these, or press Command-C if you're on a Mac. And then click somewhere in the Touchdesigner project area. And then paste by pressing Control-V or Command-V on Mac. And you can see Touchdesigner pasted those up here. What I'm going to do is, while these are still selected, I'm going to click and drag these into our project area a little bit closer like this. So now in the background of Touchdesigner, we have our particles and we have our planets separately, but now let's combine them. So let's go ahead and press Tab on the keyboard, go to the Tops category, and let's add a null operator and place that after your render 1 operator. Connect those operators. And then drag your null operator somewhere to the right to give us some space in between render and null so we can add some operators later. And then move the null operator coming from particles GPU, just move that over to the right somewhere below your other null operator so that we have our two outputs in line, basically, just to organize our project a little bit better. And now at this point, we can just combine these two operators using a composite operator. So press Tab on the keyboard, and in the Tops category, just click on Composite and place Composite somewhere to the right of your null operators. Now just connect your null operators to Composite, just like that. And now in the parameters for your composite operator, for the operation drop-down menu, just click on Add. Now you can see that our operators have been combined or composited, but it's not displaying in the back of Touchdesigner yet, so let's change that. Let's turn off the display switch for our null 2 operator. And let's turn off the display switch for our render 1 operator. Now let's go to our comp operator and turn on the display switch for our comp operator. And boom, there we go. We have our planet and we have our fuzz. And now if we press the spacebar to play the project, here's what we have. It's looking pretty good, but I noticed the particles are a little bit sleepy in their movement. So what I'm going to do is zoom into the lag operator, lag 1, and I'm actually going to press the bypass button on that operator to bypass that lag operator so it's not laggy, so it's more instant in the movement, and I'll show you what I mean now. I'm going to press the spacebar to play the project. The particles now have a little bit more crisp acceleration or velocity. It's not so laggy in the movement of the particles now. Okay, so now that we have the particles and the planet, let's go ahead and add the light tunnel. That's the only missing piece. So we're going to add the light tunnel. That's super easy. Let's do that now. Let's press Tab on the keyboard, and from the Tops category, let's click on Null. Place that somewhere below and to the right of your render 1 operator, and then drag from render 1 to null 4 to connect these two operators. And then in the palette of Touchdesigner, go to the Image Filters category, and then click on Light Tunnel and drag that and drop that into Touchdesigner. Now place that after the null operator that you just added. Connect that null operator to the light tunnel. And then for the light tunnel parameters, just adjust that radius parameter until the light tunnel is barely covering the planet. So I'm just going to drag this slider until it's barely covering the planet. And once we get to about 0.65, the light tunnel is not big enough, so I'm going to drag back down. And there we go. At about 0.61, the light tunnel is just barely covering the planet. And that is it for the light tunnel. We are going to add another operator to blur the lights or the kind of beams of light that are coming from the light tunnel to make those lights a little bit softer. So press Tab on the keyboard, and from the Tops category, just click on Blur. Add that after light tunnel, connect those two operators. And in the parameters for the blur operator, we're going to change the filter size to 9, and we're going to change the sample step to 3. And now you can see that entire image is blurred. And what we're going to do is we're going to layer the actual planet on top of this image now. And we're going to do that by adding a third null operator in right here. So let's press Tab on the keyboard and then press Null. and then drop null somewhere to the right of your blur operator. And for me, that happens to line up just in line with the other two null operators that we placed, which is pretty good. So now make sure that blur is connected to null. Make sure that that third null operator you just placed is connected to your comp operator. And your project should look like this. To eliminate confusion, you might change the names of these operators to something like null_planet. This one could be null_lightTunnel. And this one could be null_particles. And then when you go to your comp operator, it's more clear what is on top of what in this list of operators here. And that is just right. We have our planet on top, then we have some particles, and we have a light tunnel. And now in the composite operator, one of the funnest things to do with a project like this is change the operation drop-down menu value. We have tons of options in here. I tried every option for this project, and if we look at the inverse operation, that is pretty cool. It just happens to look really awesome for this project, I think. Mess around with all the operations in the operation drop-down menu. Like I said, inverse is my favorite, but that's up to your personal taste. And now if we press the spacebar to advance the project, you can see what it looks like now. Awesome, we're looking good, but at this point, we don't have a black background yet, so let's make that happen really quickly. Let's press Tab on the keyboard, and from the Tops category, just click on Transform. Add Transform after your Composite 1 operator, and in the parameters for your Transform operator, change that fourth value from 0 to 1, and then click on Comp over Background Color, and then make sure your Comp operator is connected to your Transform operator. Now you should have a black background. Now you can turn off the display switch for Comp, and turn on the display switch for Transform. And your project should be looking like this. Okay, one more thing. Let's make it so the planet and the light tunnel change color every time the bass hits. So we're going to go to the part of the project where we copy and pasted the planet operators, and there should be an operator that has a banana in it. You want to go to that operator and drag that to the left a little bit to make a little bit room to the right. Press Tab on the keyboard. From the Tops category, click on Null. Place that to the right of your movie file in operator, but leave room for one more operator. Now connect movie file into null. Now right-click on the line connecting from movie file into null and click on Insert Operator. And from the Tops category, click on HSV Adjust and place that between your two operators. Now let's go over to the audio part of our project. Press Tab on the keyboard, go to the Chops category, click on LFO, and place LFO somewhere near our audio part of our project. And then scroll over to your lag 1 operator. Click on that lag 1 operator. Turn off that bypass switch if that's turned on. And then click the Viewer Active button for the lag 1 operator. And then click the LFO operator we placed to select that. And now drag and drop lag 1 onto your frequency parameter of your LFO operator just like this. And then click on Export Chop. Now for your lag 1 operator, turn off the Viewer Active button. Click on that operator to select it. Change the lag value from 0.2 to 0.7. Change your overshoot to 0.2. Turn on clamp slope and turn that to 0.7 and 1.2. Turn on clamp acceleration and turn that to 0.2 and 0.7. And now to get our planet and our light tunnel to change color, we want to use our LFO operator in combination with our HSV adjust operator. And what we want to do is adjust the hue offset. We want to drag LFO1 onto our hue offset parameter of our HSV adjust operator. So make sure the Viewer Active button is turned on for LFO1 and then just drag and drop that onto our hue offset parameter, just like this, and then click on Export Chop. And then one more thing is turn off the Viewer Active button for LFO1 and change the amplitude to 360. Boom, there we go. And now as the music plays, when the bass hits, it should shift colors pretty much every time the bass hits. And if you let the music play a while, you should see that happen in the HSV adjust operator and the null 2 operator right here. And if you don't see it happening in the background of Touchdesigner yet, what you need to do is click and drag HSV adjust. You want to select HSV adjust and drag that onto Phong until Phong has the green border, and then drop HSV adjust onto Phong and click on parameter environment map. And now if you play your timeline, you should see changes in color in the planet and the light tunnel. There we go. And that is it, people. We are done with this visualizer. And one last thing to note is that I found it necessary to actually take your Math 1 operator and actually move it above your lag operator, and then disconnect that line connecting from lag 1 to Math 1. Disconnect that, and then connect a new line from select 1 to Math 1. And that should fix your project if the particles stopped moving or stopped reacting to the bass. So yeah, that's the last note, is I had to make this change basically to move that Math operator, disconnect that line, and then connect that new line from select to Math in order to get the particles to react to the bass hitting again. And that's it, people. We're done. If you had any issues, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I hope you have fun with this. I hope you can use this for a party or just to have a good time. So anyway, enjoy, smash that like button, and subscribe.